The next order of business is new business. Senator Nesselbush requests immediate consideration of a Senate resolution expressing profound sympathy on the passing of Leonie Lee Flaherty. There being no objection, will the clerk please read?
Senate resolution expressing profound sympathy on the passing of Leonie Lee Flaherty. Whereas it is with great sadness that this Senate has learned of the passing of Leonie Lee Flaherty, loving wife of more than 40 years to the late Frances M. Flaherty, and devoted mother and mother-in-law to Diane Flaherty and her spouse, Donna DeAngelis, David Flaherty and his wife Betsy, Mary Walsh and her husband Steve, Mark Flaherty and his wife Carol, and Patty Flaherty Donahue and her husband Brian Donahue. And whereas born to Frederick and Leonie Driscoll on February 10th of 1923, Mrs. Flaherty was the sister of the late Frederick Driscoll, Isabel Hannon, Leonard Driscoll, Dorothy Uriot. And whereas Lee Flaherty's loving personality created and nurtured a marriage that flourished and a home that was warm and welcoming, she doted on her family, particularly her grandchildren, Sean Walsh, Shannon Walsh Merlin, Michael Riemann, Daniel Riemann, Patrick Flaherty, Kelly Flaherty, and Brendan Flaherty, and her three great-grandchildren, James Merlin, Declan Walsh, and Keegan Walsh. And whereas in addition to her family life, Mrs. Flaherty had been employed as the executive assistant to the superintendent of schools in the city of Attleboro for more than 20 years. She had also served on the board of the Attleboro Council on Aging and was the secretary of the resident council at Epoch Assisted Living, where she had resided 5 years. And whereas a faithful communicant of St. John's Church, Mrs. Flaherty had also volunteered for myriad charities and had been a member of the Highland Country Club and the Bearcroft Swim Club. And whereas Lee Flaherty was the heart and soul of her family, her benevolence, hugs, and ever-present smile could light up a room, making her an extraordinary mother and grandmother. Her legacy, mark, and cherished memory will forever be indelibly imprinted on the lives and hearts of her entire family. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Senate of the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations hereby expresses our deepest sympathies on the passing of Leonie Lee Flaherty. She will be forever remembered as a devoted wife and loving mother. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and he is hereby authorized and directed to transmit duly certified copies of this resolution to Diane Flaherty, David Flaherty, Mary Walsh, Mark Flaherty, and Patty Flaherty Donahue.
Senator Nesselbush.
Yes, Madam President, I move passage.
Senator Nesselbush moves passage, seconded by Senator Metz, Senator Fogarty, Senator Crowley. Will all those in favor please rise? The resolution passes.
No further business to come before the Senate this afternoon. I yield the floor to Senator Nesselbush for adjournment.
Senator Nesselbush for purposes of adjournment.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise to pay tribute to and to pay final respects to Leonie Lee Flaherty, the mother of one of my very best friends, Diane Flaherty. Lee Flaherty was an extraordinary woman with an exceptionally warm heart, an ever-present smile, someone whose love and light was simply contagious. She leaves behind, Madam President, a wonderful legacy in terms of her 5 children, Diane, Dave, Mark, Mary, and Patty. I know they will miss her deeply, and with that, Madam President, I move that we adjourn in the name of and in honor of Leonie Lee Flaherty.
Senator Nesselbush moves that the Senate adjourn in memory of Leonie Lee Flaherty, seconded by Senator Goodwin and Senator Bates and many others. All those in favor, please rise. Senate stands adjourned.